I never thought I'd bring down a $200 million startup with a single email. But then again, I never thought Marcus Reed, my mentor turned CEO, would try to erase 5 years of my life's work with a smirk and a handshake. The irony? It all started because I trusted him too much. My name is Dr. Elena Martinez, and until last Friday, I was the Chief Technology Officer of QuantumFlow Technologies, a quantum computing startup that was about to revolutionize data encryption. Or at least that's what the press releases said. The reality, as with most things in Silicon Valley, was more complicated. I still remember the day I first met Marcus, back when QuantumFlow was nothing more than an idea sketched on a coffee-stained napkin in a Stanford cafeteria. I was a postdoc researcher, burning midnight oil in the quantum computing lab, when he walked in, all charm and vision in an expensive suit that seemed out of place among the whiteboards and humming servers. Dr. Martinez, he'd said, pronouncing my name with perfect Spanish inflection. I've read your papers on quantum entanglement. I think we could change the world together. I should have noticed how he said we even then, how smoothly he inserted himself into my research. But I was young, brilliant in my field but naive in the ways of business. His talk of changing the world, of making quantum computing accessible to everyone, resonated with my idealistic dreams. What followed was a whirlwind of pitch meetings, late-night coding sessions, and breakthrough after breakthrough. Marcus handled the business side, the investors, the publicity, the corporate structure. I focused on what I did best, pushing the boundaries of quantum computing theory and turning it into working code. You're the brain, I'm the face, Marcus would joke during our weekly meetings. Together, we're unstoppable. For 4 years, it worked beautifully. We grew from a team of 2 to a company of 150. Our first prototype, a quantum encryption system that could theoretically make data breaches impossible, attracted attention from tech giants and government agencies alike. The validation of my theories brought us a steady stream of patents, each one another brick in the foundation of what we were building. But success has a way of changing people, or maybe it just reveals who they truly were all along. I first noticed the shift about 6 months ago. Marcus began excluding me from key investor meetings. My role in press releases shrank from co-founder and CTO to just technical advisor. Small changes, subtle enough that I could almost convince myself I was being paranoid. Then came the whispers about a corporate restructuring. Late-night meetings I wasn't invited to. New board members I'd never met, all friends of Marcus from his venture capital days. Just standard growth phase stuff, Marcus assured me when I asked. Nothing for you to worry about. Focus on the tech, that's what you do best. I did worry though, enough to start taking precautions. I meticulously documented everything, every line of code, every theoretical breakthrough, every late-night eureka moment. I kept copies of all my original research, all properly dated and notarized. Just in case. What finally broke the camel's back was the patent application I discovered by accident. Our head of legal, Thomas, had left it open on his computer screen during lunch. It was for our core technology, my technology, but my name was nowhere on it. Instead, listed as the primary inventor was Marcus Reed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to the office at 3 a.m., using my key card to access the secured development lab. As I stood there, surrounded by the quantum computers I helped design, watching a cooling system's pulse with an ethereal blue glow, I made a decision. I began copying files, not the company's proprietary code, but my original research notes, the foundation everything else was built on. Working late, Elena? I nearly jumped out of my skin. Marcus stood in the doorway, his silhouette backlit by the hallway lights. How long had he been watching? Just double-checking some calculations for Monday's demonstration, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He stepped into the lab, his expensive shoes clicking on the polished floor. Funny, I was just reviewing some interesting documents myself. Old patent applications, original research papers. He picked up a stray whiteboard marker, rolling it between his fingers. Did you know that under California law, any intellectual property developed using company resources belongs to the company, even if it's based on prior work? The threat was clear. He knew what I discovered, and he was letting me know he covered his bases. The quantum entanglement theorems were my work, Marcus. From before QuantumFlow even existed. Were they? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The paperwork seems to suggest otherwise. But hey, why don't we discuss this at tomorrow's conference? I think it's time we clarified everyone's roles in this company. I knew then that I was walking into a trap. But like a fly caught in a spider's web, struggling would only make things worse. I needed to play along, for now. Of course, I said, matching his fake smile with one of my own. I look forward to it. The next day, at the Bay Area Technology Conference, everything came to a head. Our booth was packed with investors and tech journalists, all eager to see our latest quantum encryption demonstration. Marcus was in his element, working the crowd with practiced charm. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, standing on our small stage, "QuantumFlow is about to revolutionize data security forever. But first, I want to address some recent organizational changes." My heart pounded as he turned to face me, his smile now predatory. "Dr. Martinez has been instrumental in implementing my vision for quantum encryption. However, as we move forward, we need to streamline our leadership structure. Elena, your technical advisory role will no longer be needed after today." The room fell silent. I felt hundreds of eyes on me, saw the mixture of pity and secondhand embarrassment on their faces. Marcus was painting me as a glorified employee, someone disposable, erasing years of partnership with a few carefully chosen words. In fact, he continued, holding up a paper, "This recent patent filing proves that QuantumFlow's core technology has been developed under my direct guidance from the start. Any claims to the contrary are simply mistaken." The laughter started softly, a few investors chuckling at what they saw as a failed attempt at corporate climbing. It grew as Marcus smiled indulgently, playing the role of the generous CEO who had to let down a delusional employee. "Sir," a young reporter raised his hand, "doesn't Dr. Martinez's original research form the basis of your encryption system?" "Original research," Marcus laughed. "The patent records clearly show who developed this technology. I think there's been some confusion about ownership and contribution." He turned to me again. "Elena, please clean out your desk by end of day. Security will assist you." I stood there, feeling the weight of my laptop bag where I'd stored copies of my original research papers. Papers that would soon prove very interesting to several parties. "Of course, Marcus," I said calmly, my voice carrying in the now quiet room. "I'll see you Monday." He frowned slightly, probably expecting tears or protests. "Monday? I don't think you understand. You're terminated, effective immediately." I smiled, gathering my things. "Oh, I understand perfectly. And trust me, you'll want me in that Google acquisition meeting on Monday. Things might get interesting." As I walked out, leaving behind the whispers and Marcus's suddenly uncertain expression, I felt strangely light. Because while Marcus had spent months planning my removal, I'd spent years preparing for this possibility. And in 72 hours, when Google's legal team arrived to begin acquisition discussions, they'd discover exactly who owned the intellectual property they were trying to buy. Marcus thought he'd written me out of QuantumFlow's story. He was about to learn that some things can't be erased, like quantum entanglement itself. Some connections are fundamental and unbreakable. The weekend after my public humiliation felt surreal. While tech blogs buzzed with speculation about my departure from QuantumFlow, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by papers and hard drives, preparing for the most important meeting of my life. The funny thing about quantum physics is that observation changes everything. Marcus had been so busy watching my computer access, my email, my official communications, that he never noticed what was happening right in front of him. My phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Sarah Chen at Google's quantum computing division. "Elena, just reviewed your original papers from Stanford. The timestamps and methodology are interesting. Our legal team is very eager for Monday's meeting." I smiled, remembering the careful groundwork I'd laid years ago. Every quantum computing breakthrough I'd made, every theoretical advance had been meticulously documented and time-stamped in academic papers and journals, all before QuantumFlow existed. Papers that were now sitting in front of some very interested lawyers at Google. Another message popped up, this one from Thomas, our head of legal, or rather, former head of legal. "Just submitted my resignation. Attached everything I collected about the patent fraud. Good luck Monday." Thomas, it turned out, had been keeping his own records. Ethical lawyers, I'd learned, don't appreciate being asked to file fraudulent patent claims. I spent Saturday organizing the evidence, Not just my research papers, but emails, meeting notes, and most importantly, the original quantum encryption algorithms I developed during my postdoc years. The ones that predated every patent Marcus had tried to claim. Sunday morning brought another ally. Dr. Martinez, the voice on the phone was familiar, Professor Zhang, my old quantum computing mentor from Stanford. I received some interesting inquiries from Google's legal department about your doctoral research. They're particularly interested in the quantum entanglement theorems you published in 2019. The ones that formed the basis for QuantumFlow's encryption system. I asked, already knowing the answer. Precisely. I could hear the smile in his voice. I sent them my complete records, including the dated lab notes that prove you developed those theorems 2 years before meeting Marcus Reed. By Sunday evening, my case was airtight. But I had one more card to play, one that would make Monday's meeting unforgettable. I opened my laptop and began composing an email to the entire QuantumFlow board, Google's acquisition team, and several tech journalists. Subject line: regarding Monday's acquisition meeting. I attached a single PDF, my original quantum encryption white paper, dated and validated, showing exactly who had invented the technology QuantumFlow was built on. The email was set to send automatically at 10:15 a.m. Monday morning, exactly 45 minutes into the acquisition meeting. Timing, as in quantum physics, is everything. Monday morning arrived clear and crisp. I walked into QuantumFlow's headquarters at precisely 9:25 a.m., dressed in my best suit, carrying a small briefcase. The security guard at the desk did a double take. Dr. Martinez, we were told. Check the visitor list for the Google acquisition meeting, I said calmly. I believe you'll find I'm expected. He did, looking confused. You're right. They added you first thing this morning. Of course they had. Google's lawyers would have insisted on the presence of the original inventor. The boardroom was already filling up when I arrived. Marcus stood at the head of the table, looking confident in an expensive new suit. His smile faltered slightly when he saw me. Elena, this is a private meeting. Security. Actually, a sharp-suited woman from Google's legal team interjected. Dr. Martinez's presence is required for these discussions to proceed. She gave Marcus a cold smile. Shall we begin? The next 45 minutes were excruciating for Marcus. Every technical question from Google's team was directed to me. Every reference to the quantum encryption system included my name. Marcus kept trying to steer the conversation back to his visionary leadership, but the Google team wasn't interested. At 10:14 a.m., I checked my watch. Before we continue, I believe everyone's about to receive some relevant information about QuantumFlow's intellectual property. Marcus frowned. What are you? A chorus of notification sounds filled the room as everyone's phones buzzed simultaneously. I watched as they opened the email, as they read through my original white paper, as they saw the irrefutable proof of who had really invented QuantumFlow's core technology. The Google lawyers exchanged glances. The board members began whispering. Marcus's face went from confused to pale to almost green. This is nonsense, he sputtered. The patents clearly show. The patents, interrupted Google's lead lawyer, appear to have been filed fraudulently. Our investigation has revealed that Dr. Martinez's quantum encryption technology was developed and documented years before QuantumFlow's incorporation. She turned to me. Dr. Martinez, I believe you have something else to share. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. Yes. These are cease and desist letters from my lawyers regarding QuantumFlow's use of my patented technology. Additionally, I placed another document on the table. This is a competing patent application, filed last week, demonstrating my prior art and original ownership of the quantum encryption system. The room erupted in chaos. Board members were frantically calling their lawyers. The Google team was huddled in discussion. And Marcus looked like a man watching his empire crumble. You can't do this, he whispered. The company, everything we built. You mean everything I built? I corrected him. The company that you tried to steal from me. I turned to the Google team. I believe this changes the dynamics of any potential acquisition. Perhaps we should discuss terms directly. The next few hours were a blur of lawyers, negotiations, and revelations. By the end of the day, several things had become clear. First, Google was still interested in acquiring the quantum encryption technology. but they wanted to deal with me, not QuantumFlow. Second, Marcus's position as CEO was untenable. The board, facing potential lawsuits and SEC investigations, asked for his resignation. Third, most of QuantumFlow's technical team, who had always known who really developed the technology, were eager to join whatever new venture I decided to lead. As I left the building that evening, I passed by my old office. Through the glass walls, I could see Marcus packing his things, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy for the dream we'd once shared, for the partnership that could have been. But then I remembered his smirk at the conference, his attempt to erase my life's work, and the sympathy faded. In quantum physics, every action has consequences. Marcus had made his choices, and now he had to live with the results. 6 months later, I sat in my new office at Quantum Nexus, the company born from the ashes of QuantumFlow. Google's investment had allowed me to build something better, something true to my original vision. Our team had grown, our technology had advanced, and most importantly, everyone knew exactly who had created it. Marcus. Last I heard, he was trying to launch another startup. But this time, investors were doing their due diligence very carefully. The press called it a Silicon Valley soap opera. But they missed the real lesson. This wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. Like the quantum particles I worked with, you can try to change the narrative, try to force a different reality. But in the end, the fundamental nature of things will always reveal itself. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Sarah from Google, smiling as she entered. Ready for the quantum computing conference keynote? Everyone's excited to hear about your new developments. I stood up, gathering my presentation materials. Yes, I think it's time to share what we've been working on. The real story this time. As I walked to the conference hall, I thought about that day at Stanford when Marcus first approached me. He'd been right about one thing: we did change the world, just not in the way he'd expected. Because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs don't come from the technology itself, but from having the courage to stand up and say, "This is mine. I built this, and no one can take that away." The quantum encryption system we developed is now the industry standard, protecting data in ways Marcus never fully understood. But its greatest protection isn't in the quantum entanglement or the complex algorithms, it's in the truth embedded in every line of code, every patent, every academic paper. My truth, my legacy, my vindication. And every time I walk into my new office, passing the wall where my original quantum encryption white paper hangs framed, I smile, remembering Marcus's words at that fatal conference. The patent records clearly show who developed this technology. He was right about that too. They did show it, just not the way he'd hoped.